It's time for the Hockey Minute, your source for all of today's hockey news with some opinion. Strap in for the fastest news in the NHL. This episode is proudly brought to you by fucking nobody. We don't have any sponsors. Now, here's your hosts, Brandon and Ryan. And here we are. Welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Minute. I am your host, Brandon. With me, as always, my co-host, Ryan. And today we have another incredible show for you. We're really excited to have an interview lined up with Brock Weston, the brave college hockey player who came out as openly gay to his teammates in the spring of 2019 and just wrapped up his first full season. But first, please subscribe with whatever podcatcher you use. Leave us a review on iTunes or a voicemail on Anchor if you're fired up about something we said or something you think we should be doing better. We'll play it on the pod. All right, before we get into our interview with Brock, let's check in with my burly animal of a co-host. Ryan, how you doing, man?
Well, I don't know about burly, dude. I've been putting on the quarantine weight, actually, just living off of samosas, and I haven't shaved. I know I did shave, and I looked about 10 years older somehow. So, yeah, it's becoming a mountain man.
You're a barbarian, a savage.
Outside of that, I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm on nearing the end of day 7 on a 10-day foodless fast, just drinking water and my tears of being so overweight. So that's been helping me shed a few lbs, but it's good, man. Feeling a lot better than I expected, to be honestly. I thought I'd be a little bit hungry and cranky, but turns out, everything's good. Feeling happy. So I guess you can ask the wife in a couple of weeks what it was actually like, but from my perspective, things are fucking awesome.
And now...
So, all right, you heard a little bit in the intro, but I'm so excited to have our next guest on. Brock Weston came out to his teammates in April of 2019 and just finished his first full hockey season as an out athlete with the Marion Sabres. Brock studied biology and chemistry at Marion University and plans on pursuing a career in sports medicine. But before he rockets out of our echelon, we're thrilled to have him. Brock, thanks so much for doing this, man. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Brock, we have some rapid fire questions here for you. Just let me know whenever you're ready and we'll start firing.
Yeah.
All right, ice cream, chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Skates, Bauer or CCM?
Bauer or True. Now I have the customs.
Oh, just not a big deal.
Yeah. Pancakes or French toast?
Pancakes.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite movie?
Oh, I gotta go with my dad's on this one. Gladiator.
What's the last song you listened to?
Oh shit, I don't even remember the name. I was cruising in my truck. Almost like folk rock, but I also like some EDM. Like Grizz is pretty good.
Invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
You want to climb a mountain or jump from a plane?
I've already climbed a mountain, so I want to jump from a plane.
Favorite current player in the NHL?
That's a tough one. Probably Wayne McDavid's just pretty mad.
Favorite all-time player in the NHL?
That's tough. Lidstrom or Red or Gretzky.
Hey, one of those things aren't like the other, though, eh?
Yeah, I know.
All right, we'll wrap up on this one. Talking or texting?
Talking.
Beautiful. I kind of thought we could start more kind of at the beginning of your career, if you don't mind, and maybe just talk about what got you into hockey.
Oh, I mean, I'm from small town Sask, so I think I was born with skates on, as they always say. My dad put me into it for sure. My brother played. Sister played ringette, so I guess kind of the different version. And yeah, I don't know. I just stuck around home until Bantam, and then I started to play AA and moved up from there to AAA and midget, and province as a junior, and got recruited to Wisco to play D3, which was turned out to be a pretty good thing for me.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about is it Maidstone or Maidstone? I'm not sure I'm even pronouncing that right, but what's life like there?
Rural, Maidstone, and I live on a beef and like a cattle farm. We have 200 cow-calf pairs, and
oh wow,
we used to have like 8,000 acres, but now we're down to about 100, I think, and the most of it. So it's pretty busy here. Luckily, or unluckily, I'm not sure what it was, but I was home for calving this year because of the COVID thing, so I got to help Dad out while I was home, and my grandpa's gone to Hawaii for a few months, so he wasn't on his own, which was nice.
So I need to know a little bit more about that town. How many people are there?
Like 1,000 people. I think we cracked the 1,000 mark not too long ago.
Okay. Put up a little plaque.
Usually in these small towns, they always have like a sign up, like home of, and then the local celebrity. Are you that guy? If I drive into Maidstone, are you the guy that they're like home of Brock Weston?
No, there's no sign yet. I don't see that happening in the future either.
Yeah, I heard on another interview you did though. You were talking about like just life in Maidstone, just the nearest Tim Hortons being like an hour away almost. So are we talking just a really just all farmland, like pretty much probably one lone gas station and that's it?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone around here is farming or they're in the oil patch.
Right.
We got a Subway a few years ago, so that brought a big stir in the town. That was a big thing. But yeah, we had 2 gas stations. Well, I guess we had 3 at one point. Yeah, there ain't a lot going on. We do have a good grocery store though. That's nice. We got a post office and 2 credit unions, so the people are content here anyway.
So with the town of that size, when do you realize that you're actually good at hockey, like in a grander scheme, as opposed to just being good within your smaller community?
Well, what happened was in like Pee Wee, I went to try Double A, but I found this out like actually a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago. My dad told me that I went to that tryout. They told the coach before I went that I wasn't going to play. And then after the camp, they called us and said, "Are you sure he's not going to play?" So I guess it was first year Pee Wee. They were like, "Hey, he could go play somewhere if he wants." It's actually kind of ironic. That was the year. That would have been the only year I would have played with Colby Cave.
Oh, wow.
He was the captain of that Pee Wee team that year.
Okay.
And I think his dad was helping coach. And yeah, like my parents know Alan and Jen, and I knew Colby and his sister Taylor.
Oh, wow.
First year Pee Wee, I guess, is kind of when we're like, okay, we should probably start looking outside of town.
Yeah. Who were your favorite players growing up? I mean, you're a defenseman. Who did you idolize coming up?
Conveniently enough, Wade Redden. He's from about 45 minutes from here, and in smaller town in Sask called Hillmond. I always watched him growing up a lot, and I kind of modeled my game a little after him. Somewhat like Lidstrom too. I know we talked about that, and yeah, I've never been a huge points guy. Once I got to the more elite leagues, I just moved the puck really well. So
how does that get kind of doled out in terms of roles on a college team? Like, you're obviously brought in for a reason, but do you come in with a certain set of expectations and then your coaches sit you down and say, "Hey, we think you're actually more suited for this role," or is it just you realize what your game is more suited to at that level?
Well, I think they kind of understand, bringing you in where you're going to fit in. And, during the recruiting process, they usually tell you, like, okay, well, we love your goal scoring ability. So, we could see you on the power play in the next 2 years or whatever. But
Right.
I had kind of a weird situation. Our whole class did actually. We were all recruited by one guy. His name was Eric Largen. And we were supposed to start school in August. And first week of August, he emailed me and goes, "Yeah, I'm actually going to be a assistant coach at Alaska Fairbanks D1."
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so what was assistant coach, who was also helping with recruiting, Lincoln Wynn, he took over the head coach job. We had him for a year, and then middle of July, after my first year, emails us and goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna go be Eric's assistant in Alaska Fairbanks." He got a head coach job. I got a new coach again with a month before school started, my second year, and we've had him these last 3 years, and he's done pretty good with the program.
So walk me through that recruiting process a little bit, because I was looking up your elite prospects page. First of all, you bounced around all 3 leagues in the prairies. So what was that experience like?
Yeah. I mean, right from first year midget or first year junior, like I was 18, played in Lloyd. Loved it there. I had great billets and had a good group of guys on the team too. Start seeing schools talking to your older guys, your 19, 20-year-olds. I was never that guy that's going to go as an 18-year-old, so they weren't talking to me. But once Lloyd found out they got RBC, they dished like 9 of us in like 3 days. So I went to Battleford, and I was getting recruited there as a 19-year-old by Norwich, which I actually now realize is like one of the top 3 teams in the country. in the state. Yeah, so I was getting recruited by them, and then I blew my knees out. My right ACL, MCL, and my left MCL and medial meniscus. So I didn't play for 13 weeks, and then asked for a trade before spring camp because I wasn't going to go back. I wasn't liking it, and I traded to Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, and I played in the MJ, and that was the best year of hockey for me. I had a blast. We won Manitoba. To Western Canada Cup and lost out to Bucks and West Kelowna, which was the number one team in the country, and West Lloyd. Kind of sucked, but I mean, along the way, I had the from a couple different schools. Eric from Marion was contacting me and coming to watch me play. So that it was kind of cool to see that they come watch you and talk to you after the games and give you a call. They watched online and whatnot. Ironically enough, the coach that I just finished with that I had for 3 years, he was recruiting me to a different school where he was coaching before. I actually flew down after Western Canada Cup to go visit Marion and Concordia, where my now coach was coaching. I visited Marion and I liked it, and I called Concordia and I said, sorry, I'm not coming. I'm going to go to Marion.
That's awesome.
He was pretty devastated, but I think he was pretty happy when he ended up getting to coach me.
Sounds like wherever you went, your coaches kind of wanted you to follow.
I guess.
You mentioned Wade Redden as a player that you modeled your game after. Were you a fan of the Senators, or is that just a player that you happen to follow?
Just a player. I'm not a Sens fan. Unfortunately, for a long time, I was an Oilers fan. I still am.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good you're loyal, right? If you stick it out now, you'll be all right when you win.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened to your teeth?
It's one of those stories as a hockey player and playing this far. I wish I could say it was a great one, but we were actually, my mom and a friend of mine and his dad were on our way back from a Bantam AA hockey game, and a drunk driver hit us head on and hit the vehicle in front of us. And
oh shit!
I wasn't wearing my shoulder strap in the back seat, and a socket set hit me in the face, knocked out 3 of my jib.
Oh, buddy.
So it was a pretty rough one. Like, the girl that hit us, yeah, she was drunk and she died there, and it was a big.
Oh,
well, I mean,
man, that's tough.
It was a shitty event for sure.
Wow.
Well, I guess I would ask you, just with the fact that you played 3 different leagues, 3 different junior teams. I mean, do you got any good stories just from being on the road? I'm assuming it's a lot of bus rides and a lot of playing in small towns. I mean, anything jump out to you, a fond memory, or even just kind of like that slap shot style crazy story?
Yeah, well, there's a few. I remember we were playing in Lloyd, and we had to go up to Fort McMurray. It's like a 7-hour bus ride, and gets the asshole of winter, and our bus heater breaks on the way up. We get we're freezing our ass off on the way up there, and no heat, nothing. The guys got blankets, and we're trying to stay warm, and we get to the rink and get inside the rink, and we're like, holy shit, it's warmer in here. Good game. And we had to drive back that night, and we didn't get a new bus, and it was the worst bus ride ever.
Oh my God. At least you guys, after the game, you guys must you just take a hot shower. You're probably just I'm never leaving this. I'm not getting out.
100%. And it's a nice rink in Fort Mac, an old barn there, but we did not want to leave there and get on that ice box.
So I was just wondering if you could touch on maybe one other moment of your kind of junior career, if you maybe had a huge goal that you scored or a big accomplishment that stands out in your career.
Juniors. Actually, yeah. So we played the Hockey Night in Canada game. Where we wore the Don Cherry Tux looking jerseys.
Oh, there you go.
Those were pretty cool. And ended up winning that game. We were hosting it in Lloyd, and we had they had Toronto alumni play or something like that outdoors. I think I had a 3-point night or something like that, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Ooh, man, was that televised?
It was the Hockey Night in Canada game, so they.
Oh, beautiful!
It was a good night to show up.
Put you on the radar, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that must have been it.
So you came out to your teammates a year ago in a beautifully prepared speech. I mean, that anybody can and should absolutely read on the internet. Can you maybe just describe the experience a little bit? What was your biggest fear in coming out to your teammates?
Well, I mean, thought, could be the end for me. You never know, if the guys react differently than they did. It just might have driven me away, but it kind of brought me closer to the game and those guys around, knowing I could be myself. I never
Yeah.
just kind of hated the idea of that big coming out thing. If we're trying to normalize it, then it shouldn't be this large and display.
Right.
That kind of for me was like, against what I thought, but I had to do it, or it was just going to keep happening and happening, and I needed it to stop happening because it was eating away. I was not doing well. So,
And then going forward into your most recent season, which was your final season, right? So, I mean, you played a full season as an out athlete. Was that just a massive weight off your shoulders for the whole year?
yeah, 100%. Like, talked about it in the speech. Like, you talk about your sport being your escape, and you leave your shit at the door, but
Right.
couldn't leave my shit at the door because I couldn't talk to anyone in the room about it. So, I talk about it in all my articles and whatever I've freaking posted. Roommate Lawson, like, he is the man, and he, like, all the guy. I don't know a guy that doesn't respect him or a person that doesn't respect him. And coach matched us up freshman year. I had no idea who this guy was. I thought he was a total clown before we even met. He wouldn't answer our text messages about the apartment or anything. I'm like, I lucked out. I mean, coach matched us up, and I got a best friend for life. Like, he'll be my best man, and it's kind of cool. So
I'm actually glad you brought it. That is kind of funny though. I just picture you like just being like, who is this guy? Like, he's just big time, and me, I'm not, not answering the phone. But I'm glad you brought him up, because he sent me a nice message actually on Instagram, just being like, hey, I listen to your podcast, like, great work. And I was stunned. Usually on Instagram, we only get messages from cam girls asking us to come watch their shows. And we do. Well, yeah, I mean, it's all networking, but then the other thing too was I was just like, man, I was pretty sure it was only Brandon's wife that listened. So the fact that he hopped on and gave us a listen was really kind of him. But you talked a little bit in another interview I heard, and you talked about the impact he's had. And when you talked about him, it reminded me, I've had some captains when I played, and it sounds like just a real similar situation. I mean, you mentioned he's going to be your best man. I just go into the impact that he had, even leading up to the decision to write that letter and to come out. I mean, I'm assuming you didn't just wake up one day and decide to do that. It must have been a slow build. And how involved in that process was Lawson?
Like, it was there the whole way. That's kind of like, that's what brought me to be able to do it, I guess. Like, I'll go back just for a second. The first time we met at school, and I didn't know what he looked like, because the only picture he had on his Instagram or anything was from when he was 15 playing junior A. He looked like a baby, and we walked into the cafeteria at school, and I was texting him. Some guy walked up to us, and my dad's wearing a Rough Rider shirt. He wears it everywhere. It's kind of his thing. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
It's like the uniform.
Yeah, basically. But this guy walked up to us, and so Lawson was a dual athlete. Triathlete actually. Played NCAA D3 soccer, hockey, and tennis.
Wow. So
this guy in all soccer gear, Marion, walks up to us in the cafeteria. He's like, "Are you Brock?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's got like a grizzled beard, and I'm like, what fucking soccer coach is talking to me right now? I don't know this. Yeah, I straight up thought Lawson was a soccer coach when I first met him, but yeah, no, it was Lawson. Like, obviously Lawson had known for the whole year, like a little more than a year, I think. The night I told him was kind of a TSN turning point in our friendship. Like, I actually had heard something about him that I didn't know, and I thought I should know as a best friend. So I kind of asked him if there's anything he wanted to tell me. I'd kind of planned, okay, if he's going to tell me, then I'll tell him. He told me, and it was like one of those private conversations, and we were both just in tears by the end of it, and ever closer, And night, I had my little breakdown there after some of the guys were, making those offhanded comments. He was with me while I was having my meltdown, and said I couldn't live like that. And so the next day we talked about it. I said, I think I got to tell everyone, like, I can't do that again. Like, I said, I'm not going to be able to be in the locker room if guys think that, like, it just, everyone looking over my shoulder. I said, okay, what do you need me to do? And that I don't know. I talked to my coach first. I just actually wrote a separate letter, email or speech, I guess, to him. I think I sent it to him first, and then I read it to him. He told me he wasn't going to read it, so I met with him in person, and I read it to him, and we were really close there, and he was fully on board and supportive, and really thankful for that. And then I drafted my little speech there, and obviously it's not perfect, but it kind of got the point across, I think, and helped me do it and what. So, and then helped with the whole planning. Like I messaged the boys like, hey guys, I need a meeting, and I was assistant captain, so they didn't know what the hell the meeting was for, and I was calling a team meeting for all the returners. Season was over, so the seniors didn't need to be there, and didn't know what they were getting into. but no, it went super good, and I mean, it was just like Lawson being in the room was a huge thing, and he drove separate, so no one really knew what was going on either, and I don't know, it was incredible.
So was it only Lawson and your coach that had any idea going in?
Yeah.
Wow. So did you have any, I mean, obviously you don't have to name names, but were there any teammates where you're like, hey, I'm not really sure how this or that guy is going to react due to kind of some slurs that have been maybe used on the ice, or just ways that they've acted towards you, anything like that? Or were you just pretty confident that it'd be okay?
No, there was like the opposite of that. There was a few guys where I thought, okay, they'll be fine with it, and the rest I was a little worried about. Like,
okay,
and that's part of the reason I didn't invite the seniors to this meeting that I hosted, because them were, like you meet good guys in hockey and whatnot, but some questionable characters sometimes. They make some cool decisions. So
yeah, people are people for sure, man. Could you maybe just touch on the support that you've received since then?
Oh, I even explain it. It's been incredible. Like I've had, when I posted the Outsports article, within 2 days I had like 100 emails.
Wow.
From people all over the world, all age ranges. I had probably 25 people message me that my story gave them enough courage to tell their family, and
wow,
different things like that. And so it's been incredible. Like I can't even explain it. Like I had a 15-year-old kid message me saying it gave him courage to tell his parents, and now they're closer than ever. And I had a person from New Zealand who was like 65 message me and tell me that they decided to tell their family, like, if I could do it, then they could. And
wow.
So, I mean, it's been overwhelming. Like I haven't had one negative response or anything like that. And just like a lot, I'm really thankful for that. And I'm really happy that I didn't really have any goals going into this, but that's a huge positive outcome, is that it's encouraged people and give people hope. And
well, yeah, I was going to ask you, like, that's got to be, as you said, you didn't probably have any idea or any, I guess, sort of goal that you're going to be this public figure, this, I kind of likened it to the guy that ran the 4-minute mile. Like once he did it, many people were suddenly able to break that barrier. And in your case, as far as I know, anyways, I don't think there's been any gay hockey player. But of those emails that you were getting, were you getting any from other ice hockey players just saying, hey, you know what, I'm living with this secret too, and because of you, I'm now able to come out and talk about it?
Yeah, I've had a few people message that are still playing.
Oh, wow.
Guys that are in junior hockey. And I mean, there's I don't know if you guys have read about like Zach Sullivan. He plays for the Manchester Storm in like the league.
Okay.
He came out their league-wide pride weekend this year as bisexual. So It was kind of a big thing. But when I posted the article, I just kind of sent it on a whim, after reading that. I messaged the thing and was like, how do I share my story? And that was like, when I sent it, I was like, shit, now I got to do it.
There's actually Brock McGillis, a goalie in the OHL who came out in 2016. Have you had any contact with him or seen any of his projects moving forward?
Yeah, I did a little bit. I mean, the one other podcast I did, he connected us on the Outfield podcast, and he kind of connected the other Brock and I. So we talked a little bit, yeah, and he does a lot of like advocating and working with like the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think he ended up playing some pro hockey and then he quit and then he came out, and he's really vocal and active on social medias.
So I guess this next question kind of has two parts to it, and you mentioned a little bit about with your teammates, and I mean it just has to do with slurs, right? So when it comes to the hockey culture, like you were saying, most guys have been called a fag on the ice, and that's pretty standard practice. And a lot of the time, there isn't malice in it. I mean, I know I'm born in '85. I'm 34, and like growing up, that was a pretty common thing. It's kind of since left my lexicon, but it was absolutely a normal thing that you would hear growing up. And so how do you deal with that with your teammates, and how do you kind of let them still be themselves while letting you feel like you can be yourself? And then after that, we could maybe talk about how to approach the culture as a whole when we don't necessarily know what somebody's intention is when they're saying those words.
I mean, like you said, I grew up with it. Like, I've been called a fag, and I'm sure everyone that plays hockey has been called a fag. And I think it's just my teammates were like, I was super impressed because like everything, like, oh, we got to do a 6 a.m. workout. Oh, that's gay. Like,
right.
I only think I heard that maybe twice this year. Like, guys put in an effort to remove it from their vocabulary. I really appreciated that because I told them, and it's in the speech there, like, I understand things are going to slip. I know you don't, as long as you don't mean it with, like you said, with malice or, intent. Even my family, like, grew up in rural Saskatchewan here. Like, it's kind of standard practice to say shit like that.
Right.
So I think guys have been super, super impressive with it. And yeah, I'm thankful for that.
That just must make you feel totally accepted too, right? When they make such a large change in order to accommodate you and make you feel good and part of the family, I think that must really kind of double down on what you did and that it was the right thing.
Yeah, it did. And like, to think of guys would come up to me, and be like, I'm really proud of you or whatever. And I'll be like, I have a friend back home that's gay, or, I have a friend back home that's bisexual or whatever. And they, they told.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it could help them appreciate outside of the hockey world as well as inside the hockey world that it's just people. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because I mean, so just so you have some context too. Like, I grew up in a town called Cloverdale, and it was kind of the same deal. It was a small town, somewhat of a farming community until about 2000, and then the internet hit, and then they started building stuff. But kind of the same thing, like in a dressing room coming up, and I played lacrosse too, and it was the same type of stuff where guys, they use those types of phrases. And no malice, obviously, but just, yeah, like you said, early morning practice, well, that's kind of gay, whatever. Did you, like, what would you like to see for, at a grassroots level? Like, what can be done to just educate kids from the grassroots level onward so that in 10 years or so, like, we just completely wipe that out of our lexicon in the locker room?
I mean, it's tough. Like, I know like that Brock McGillis, he does a lot of talking on this and stuff, but it's a culture thing, right? And said it well. The one thing I read, it was like, a lot of people don't really mean this in negative ways or whatever. It's just some part of things you say, and you're a product of your environment. And I think it's pretty true. Like, I know a lot of guys, as soon as they knew, they were like, see you later, not saying that again. Like, doesn't need to be said. And I think as, like you guys, if you have kids going through like trying to eliminate it. And, if they don't hear it as regularly in the room, it might not become so standard. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of similar with like someone saying someone retarded. It's kind of been like against that, I guess.
Right.
It's, the same thing if you can just remove it from your vocabulary.
Did you ever have any incidents with players on other teams who knew that you'd come out, who maybe tried to target you because of what you'd said or how you were advocating?
No, I never did actually. And I know obviously there was other guys that knew because, how do you not? But also I know my team didn't really, go gossip about it much because
right.
Still a lot of people that didn't know when I left this year, and I had to tell, and they were friends with guys on the team, and I think I mentioned it in my speech, like they told coach I wasn't in the room, that just really proud of me, and it's not their story to tell, it's my story to tell, so
absolutely
let it be that way.
I wanted to ask you, and I don't know how deep you want to dive into this, but when I was in sixth grade, I met a guy and right from the get-go knew he was gay. And I'm just curious, when did you start to kind of realize that was your story as well? I mean, seems like a lot of the gay people that I've met over the years out here in Vancouver, some of them knew, eighth grade, and others were 22, 23 years old and maybe even had girlfriends and then realized that they were gay. I mean, at what point did you kind of realize that was your situation?
I mean, I guess you could call it a late bloomer. So I didn't really know either until I was probably like 19 when I was like, okay, something isn't going here. I'm like both sides of the fence here. We'll see. I don't know. Once I got to college, I was kind of like, well, and I mean, I was still closeted, and hiding it. And so, there was a few girls at college I slept with, and that's not really a regret, but it's also it's something that I question about myself. Like, why did I do that? And
right.
And then I learned and moved on from it. But yeah, I was a late bloomer. I didn't know for sure until I was probably 21.
Hey, Brock, just so you know, man, having that regret, that's not exclusive to just gay guys, man. It's yeah.
I know we've had those convos.
I just wanted to touch on another thing that I heard in that interview on the outfield, and you mentioned your boyfriend. He came down. Is that correct to visit you at school?
Yeah, he came. Well, he went down. Came down 3 times now. 2 last year and then 1 this fall.
And if I remember in the interview, you said that it was kind of tough because at the time you kind of had to just tell your teammates or your friends at school that he was just a buddy just coming down to visit. I mean, it's got to be tough on both you guys, honestly, but how did he handle that?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely not the ideal situation, and it's a kind of a regret, but it's also, he understood and it helped us both grow kind of. I think that's kind of, when this question started boiling up for people. I'm lucky to have him support me along the way, because it was a tough year. I was lucky to have Lawson right there, but yeah, it was a unique situation for sure.
Were you seeing your boyfriend when you still hadn't come out to your team yet, or did that happen later?
Yeah, so actually it would have been the summer of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was going houseboating with my cousin and some of his friends, and we were out in the shoe swap. We matched on Tinder and started talking, and then met at Calgary Stampede that summer. That's
funny. That's actually what my follow up was going to be. Is how does dating go when you're kind of trying to keep it from everybody around you, right? I mean, you've got 22 brothers on the team that you're trying to hide it from, and everybody else in your community. That's got to be a real challenge and mentally taxing.
Yeah, big time. I'd be texting him or whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh, are you talking to?" I'll be like, "No one." I don't know. I can't really tell you.
Right.
I luckily had I have a really good friend, Justine in Calgary, Heather that I met in Portage, my best friends, and would be talking to them all the time, and they were super supportive, and obviously, really liked the idea that I was living myself. So,
is your boyfriend a big hockey fan, or did he play growing up?
Oh, he didn't. He was big into skiing, actually. His family goes to the mountains a lot. Fortunately, he's a Flames fan. So I kind of
Oh,
joked that he's a Flamer, but he doesn't like it.
That's like the first like domestic disagreement. Eh? Like you guys get into your favorite teams, and he's like, like big, love to Ginla, and you're just like, oh shit, like what do we do about this?
I thought this was going to be good.
And here we are. No.
So that flamer joke actually kind of leads me into one of the questions that our producer had in your letter that you penned. You said jokes. I'm okay with some, and I was just wondering if maybe you could expand on that a little bit.
I mean, like things like that. Like it's kind of a way you could go about it without the gay context. Like
right.
Our best friends. His name's Logan. He's a Flames fan too, so called him a Flamer. So I don't know, things like that. It's not. I mean, I try not to go overboard with it because then, people will test the waters. If you have an inch, they'll take a mile. So I try to avoid it. But
yeah, they kind of take it as like a free license. Like if you're doing it, it means it's a free pass, right?
Yeah, and I, try to eliminate that before it gets out of hand.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. So is there anything? I mean, you're obviously pretty early on into this path, but if there were other athletes who were still kind of looking to come out, is there any advice that you could give them or wisdom you could share?
Oh, I mean, you're not alone. Like, I mean, there's the people that, you could just reach out to. I've had the people on social media and whatnot reach out, and we're happy to help because we've been there. And also, you'd be shocked at the people around you that won't care or will in fact care in a supportive manner, that they'll make sure other people care. Like, I was shocked with few people, some guys on my team, some people in my hometown that, I haven't seen in a couple of years that either messaged me or told my parents or my grandparents that, they were just really proud of me and what I'm doing to step up for something like this. And I think, you'd be shocked, especially in this day and age, at who doesn't care or wants to support locally.
And that must be really, really empowering for you to feel like, I mean, you had a perception of how it was going to turn out and it flipped basically. And now you can spread that message. And it's like, hey, it's probably not all your worst fears that are going to come true. There's a good chance that there's some real acceptance out there.
Exactly. It's becoming a normal thing, which is good. And
yeah,
it happened to me. It weighs on your mental health really bad. And you can't let it do that.
I wanted to just ask you. I mean, the NHL they've got special nights like Pride Night, and there's still that stereotype with hockey players that you got to build up that macho image. What's your take on that? I mean, is there anything that you'd like to see done, even with the LGBTQ plus players, that can kind of help cull that stereotype?
No, I mean, like, a macho hockey guy, like I kind of live up to that too, but I mean, I also play with some guys and I grew up with some guys that were like, oh, he's probably gay, and they're not. Like, it's just, it's the whole ideal of stereotyping it, or some of the time it doesn't fit. So I want to go far in hockey, you gotta be able to either gas or get your ass kicked. So be some macho in you to get to that point. But I mean, they're making strides. Like, right. Can't change the culture like that. That's literally global.
Kind of sticking with the hockey culture aspect, in the letter that you penned to your teammates, you commented on something that I know that my dad's generation, for example, would be thinking if they had a gay hockey player in the dressing room, in the showers with them, and you were saying basically to the effect of, look, I don't care, we're family, I don't look at family like that. And I just thought that might be really important for you to touch on here.
I mean, that was a big thing. And I re-emphasized it at the end of the speech. Like, don't go to the rink looking for a boyfriend. Like, I go there, shit at the door, and we go to war together. And
yeah.
I think the guys got that. And I think a lot of people would, because that's where I go to let out my frustrations and some ass and push you to be better. And just develop. You're there as a person, you're there as a player. exactly, like it's your brothers in that room. You're not looking at anyone like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that is one of the most common misconceptions. I wanted to just kind of move into something a little bit kind of recent. I mean, you were diagnosed with COVID, and so I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, like year for me. Um, it was shitty. Like luckily I'm not in that target age group or like having any other ailments. So I'm the young adult, and I was able to fight it off, but knocked me down pretty good. Like when I first got it, I was on my way home. I was eating. I don't know if you guys like chips. I'm kind of a chip guy.
You can't see us, but our physiques definitely indicate that we enjoy a good bag of chips.
Kind of guys. So I was eating Old Dutch Mesquite barbecue chips in my truck. They're like my favorite chips. They're really flavorful. And I was driving home and I was munching, and I'm like 5 minutes in, I'm like, I cannot taste these.
Oh.
I was like, fuck, something is wrong.
Like, sorry, you mean like earlier that day you could taste something no problem, and then you bought this bag of chips and all of a sudden taste was gone?
Well, I didn't really eat anything before that because I just fucked off in my truck with all my shit from my apartment. And that was my road snack. I grabbed some things and was munching on chips, and I couldn't taste them. And I was like, fuck, this isn't good. Like, and I couldn't smell them either.
Oh man, it's a bit worrisome for sure, eh?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that raised some serious flags for me.
So have you fully recovered? Did you how was quarantine for you, and are you fully recovered?
Yeah, I mean, I got the fever and the cold, and then the last 2 days of it, kind of before I turned the corner, I had the chest pressure and the cough. Quarantine sucked. Luckily I wasn't cooped up in my apartment. I was here at the farm.
Oh, that's way better.
Big time. Like I could go outside, and I had to. Like my dad was calving 200 cows. I think we had 70 calves in 7 days. Like he was helping out. I was in COVID. I was checking cows at 3 a.m. and then going back to bed, and then getting up at 7:30 to go for chores at 8. And I guess I didn't really have the brutal quarantine. Locked in my bedroom. Our house is split, so I had the whole basement to myself. And
Jeez, that's hockey player tough too, eh? Like you got COVID, you're out there 3 a.m. just working on the farm. Like LeBron breaks an eyelash and he's out for a couple of days, and so I mean, there you go. That's not just hockey tough, because I'm not a farm kid. Like definitely urban.
Dumb farmer tough.
That's Saskatchewan farmer tough. Here we go.
That's Gordie Howe tough, man. Yeah, that's the real kind of tough. You tweet a lot about mental health. I was just wondering maybe if you could touch on why that's such an important issue for you.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of always has been. I've had friends that have had, eating disorders or depression. And then last year, almost, we're coming up here on it, May 28th, my brother killed himself.
Oh, geez.
So it's kind of been a huge thing for me since then, especially since then. And luckily I feel like I've made an impact. I've had, 2 people now that are contemplating suicide that have reached out to me, and I went with them to get help, and
oh wow,
things like that. So yeah, that's kind of why mental health's a big thing for me and family. And I mean, obviously I went through my stuff.
So you've been involved in advocacy for a while then, obviously, not just with your own mental health, but kind of helping other people through that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, two peers of mine at school and myself, we started it's called Sabres End the Stigma Week, which unfortunately did not get to happen this year. It was the first ever one. Planned a whole week of different like self-care and resiliency and things like that. And we actually had a speaker coming to school to speak to all the students at university, and the student athletes were going to be required to go.
Wow.
It was the week after spring break that got canceled because of COVID, so it's going to have to happen next year.
What are some of the kind of the tools that you would employ for kind of keeping your mental health up? Is it like a gratitude journal? What are we talking about here?
Lots of stuff. I mean, basically being a sports guy, like activity is a big thing. I like music a lot.
Yeah.
Also just really like my alone time sometimes. I'll just really like driving. I mean, obviously I to Wisconsin and back a few times, but for cruise like today I was working on studying for the MCAT again, and I left in my truck and just went for a 2-hour drive around the countryside and visited some of our cows. And
so you studied biology and chemistry as well. You had plans to go to medical school and eventually work in sports medicine. What drew your interest to the medical field?
Actually, the first kind of draw for me was actually after the car accident, and plastic surgeon kind of put my mangled face back together, and I was like, it's kind of cool. I could do that. I mean, I've just had an interest in like body. Like I've been a big hunter since I was little, and cows on the farm. So, I've seen births and deaths and C-section, fluid you can imagine. I've always kind of been okay with it. And I think that was kind of my first draw.
So what would be the ideal profession coming out of med school then?
Oh, well, school is at least a year off. I just found out on Friday I didn't get into U of S, so I got to reapply this year, but that's okay. I would like to have my own clinic. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Pan Am Clinic, and a huge sports med facility, and they have MRIs and ETs that, and primarily focus with like athletes. And I think I'd like to have something like that, maybe based in like Calgary, and have all the stops available, your sports psych, your nutrition, your sports med, your ortho, your personal trainers, it'll be like an athlete haven, basically, massage therapy, physio, all that. Have a kind of a one-stop shop that people can come to, and just general health, and also I was a personal trainer for a few summers and a lot of athletes, and I liked that, so I think I'd like to see that.
And it's just nice working with athletes because they want to get better and perform in the way that you're trying to get them to. Like there was a brief minute where I considered being a personal trainer, and then you start to think about all the dumb fucks like me who go there, pay for the session, and then don't actually do the work, and then show up fat a week later, and it's like, bro, it's not working. So I think your path makes more sense.
Yeah, and that was kind of like I went through that. I had a few people that I did as like personal clients or whatever, and I kind of like to say we put in the work and write and work out, and these people would come and you're like, we've been working for a month here and it's gotten worse, and this program worked for 4 other people that have tried it, and everyone's different, and it's not to say that something won't work, but you're right, like it's not quite the same vibe.
Yeah, exactly. You want that full buy-in.
Yeah, you gotta commit to it.
Well, man, Brock, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to talk to you. Is there any place that the people can find you?
On Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Twitter's at bwesty_5, I think. And Instagram, just search my name. It's got numbers and letters in it.
Perfect. Hopefully we can maybe touch base a little bit in the future and kind of see how things are going for you. And I wish you absolutely all the best going forward.
Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate it. I mean, a lot to get the word out and have hockey people doing it too, especially. It's kind of nice. Thanks for having me.
Well, and if we get playoffs, because I know at the time of this recording, they're talking about some 24-team kind of weird thing going on.
Womp womp.
We'll get you and Lawson on maybe to break down some of the playoff matchups too. If we do get it, I don't really know what's going on in the NHL, but
You'd love that. You'd love Lawson's hot takes. He's got some hot takes for sure.
Oh,
there you go. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Is he an Erik Karlsson fan?
Yeah, big Karlsson guy.
Ooh, I think we just had a falling out.
Yeah, no, he big guy. He's from right around there, so give it to him.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you guys on, and again, man, thank you so much for joining us today, and all the best in the future with the medical field as well. And like I said, we'd love to have you back.
I'd be glad to be back. Thanks, you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Brock. Thanks everybody for listening. From Ryan and Brandon, we'll catch you next time on the Hockey Minute. We'd like to take a second to thank you, the listener, for joining us. And a big thanks goes to our writers and production team, Jules, Mark, and Matt. We couldn't do this without you.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Hockey Minute, as well as leaving voicemails on our anchor page at Hockey Minute. And always make sure to subscribe to whichever platform you listen to your podcasts.
That's going to do it for us. This is Brandon and Ryan. We'll talk to you next time on The Hockey Minute.
That's Saskatchewan Farmer Tough. Here we go.
It's tough being international.